Every year, over 400 million tons of plastic are produced worldwide, but shockingly, less than 10% is ever recycled. The rest? It ends up in landfills, oceans, or burned, polluting our planet for centuries. But what if we could take this waste and give it a new life? What if an old, discarded plastic container could transform into something useful, like a brand new bucket? That's exactly what happens in the incredible process of plastic recycling. In this video, we'll take you behind the scenes to show how plastic scrap is collected, sorted, and cleaned. You'll see how it's broken down into tiny pieces, melted, and reshaped into strong, durable buckets that are ready for use again. Recycling not only reduces plastic waste, but it also saves energy, cuts pollution, and keeps our environment cleaner. But there's something most people don't think about: the dangerous conditions that workers face in plastic recycling facilities. High temperatures, toxic fumes, and heavy machinery make it a risky job. So, what does it take to turn recycled plastic into buckets? And what do these workers go through in the process? Let's break it down, and don't forget to subscribe for more. Before we dive into the recycling process, it's important to understand why this industry is so crucial. Plastic waste is one of the biggest environmental problems of our time. Every minute, the equivalent of a garbage truck full of plastic is dumped into the ocean. Landfills are overflowing, and microplastics are even showing up in our food and water. You might think recycling is the perfect solution, but the reality is more complicated. Not all plastics can be recycled, and even when they can, the process is far from simple. Many items are contaminated with food, mixed with non-recyclable materials, or made of plastic types that aren't easy to process. This means that even when people throw plastic into the recycling bin, a large percentage still ends up as waste. But there's another issue that doesn't get as much attention: the human cost of recycling. Workers in plastic recycling plants deal with harsh conditions, from handling dirty waste to breathing in toxic fumes. Many of these workers are in low-income countries, working long hours in unsafe environments. So, how does plastic actually get recycled into buckets? And what challenges do workers face along the way? Let's start with the first step: collecting and sorting plastic scrap. The journey of recycling plastic into buckets begins with collection and sorting. Plastic scrap comes from various sources: household waste, industrial leftovers, and discarded plastic products. Some of it is gathered from recycling bins, while other plastic waste is picked up from landfills and streets, often by informal waste collectors who work in tough conditions for very little pay. Once collected, the plastic is transported to sorting facilities, where workers and machines separate the usable materials from non-recyclable waste. This step is crucial because mixing different types of plastic can ruin the recycling process. Workers manually sort through piles of waste, removing contaminated materials like food packaging, labels, and non-recyclable plastics. Advanced recycling centers use automated systems like conveyor belts, infrared scanners, and air jets to quickly identify and separate plastic types. However, many recycling facilities, especially in developing countries, still rely on manual labor, exposing workers to dust, bacteria, and sharp objects. Despite the challenges, sorting is one of the most important steps in recycling. Without proper separation, the final product, buckets in this case, could be weak or unusable. Now that the plastic is sorted, it's time for the next step: cleaning and shredding. This step is essential because any leftover dirt, grease, or labels can affect the quality of the final recycled product. This process isn't always easy. Some plastic waste comes from heavily contaminated sources, like old paint buckets or food containers. Workers often have to scrub plastic by hand or use industrial washing tanks filled with detergents. In many facilities, employees work in damp conditions, dealing with slippery floors and strong chemical odors that can cause health issues over time. After cleaning, the plastic is dried and fed into shredding machines, where sharp rotating blades cut it into small flakes. These flakes are easier to melt and reshape later in the process. However, this step also comes with risks. Shredding machines are powerful, and workers must be careful to avoid injuries from moving parts and flying debris. Now that the plastic is shredded into tiny pieces, it's ready for the next phase: where the real transformation and danger begins. With the plastic now shredded into small flakes, the next step is melting and pelletizing. These plastic flakes are loaded into high-temperature extruders, which are long, tube-like machines that heat the plastic to 600 degrees Fahrenheit, or 315 degrees Celsius. The heat turns the flakes into a thick, molten liquid that can be reshaped into new products. However, working with melted plastic comes with serious risks. The high temperatures create toxic fumes, and without proper ventilation, workers can inhale dangerous chemicals that cause long-term health problems. In some factories, employees wear protective masks and gloves, but in lower-budget facilities, safety measures are often lacking. Burn injuries from molten plastic are also a major hazard. What do you think of these working conditions? Once the plastic is fully melted, it is pushed through a machine that shapes it into tiny uniform pellets, called nurdles. These pellets are the building blocks of new plastic products, including the buckets we use every day. At this stage, the plastic is clean, processed, and ready to be turned into something new. Now it's time for the most exciting part: molding the pellets into buckets. The most common method used for this is injection molding, a process that allows manufacturers to create strong, durable buckets in large quantities. The process starts by feeding the plastic pellets into an injection molding machine, where they are reheated until they turn into a thick, molten liquid once again. Then, the liquid plastic is injected under high pressure into bucket-shaped molds made of metal. These molds are designed with precise measurements to ensure every bucket comes out with the right thickness, strength, and shape. Once inside the mold, the plastic is quickly cooled using water or air systems, allowing it to harden and take its final form. Within seconds, the mold opens, and a brand new plastic bucket is released onto a conveyor belt. Some factories use robotic arms to remove the buckets automatically, while others rely on workers to manually collect and inspect them. Working in molding facilities comes with serious risks. The machines operate under extreme heat and pressure, and even a small mistake can lead to burns, injuries, or dangerous accidents. Workers must be highly trained to operate the machines safely and wear protective gear at all times. In some lower-budget factories, safety regulations may not be strictly enforced, increasing the risk of workplace injuries. After molding, some buckets go through additional finishing steps. This includes trimming off excess plastic, smoothing rough edges, and adding handles or logos. Finally, the finished buckets are stacked, packed, and prepared for shipping. At this stage, the plastic scrap has fully transformed from waste into a brand new usable product. But before the recycled buckets are sent to stores or factories, they must go through one final step. They must pass quality control tests to ensure they are strong, durable, and safe to use. Workers inspect the buckets for defects like cracks, weak spots, or uneven edges. Some buckets go through stress tests, where they are filled with heavy weights or dropped from a height to see if they can withstand pressure. In high-end factories, automated machines scan the buckets for imperfections, while in smaller facilities, workers manually check each item. Any defective buckets are either recycled again or discarded. Once they pass inspection, the buckets are stacked, packaged, and shipped to hardware stores, warehouses, and industrial buyers. These products, once plastic waste, are now ready for use in homes, construction sites, and businesses. This whole process is amazing, but recycling plastic scrap into buckets isn't just about making new products. It has a much bigger impact. One of the biggest benefits is waste reduction. Instead of plastic ending up in landfills and oceans, it gets a second life as a useful product. This helps cut down pollution and reduces the need for new plastic production, which relies on fossil fuels like oil and gas. By recycling plastic, we also save energy. It takes up to 75% less energy to recycle plastic than to create new plastic from raw materials. Recycling also has economic advantages. The industry provides thousands of jobs in collection, processing, and manufacturing. From waste collectors to machine operators, many people rely on recycling for their income. However, as we've seen, worker safety is a major issue, and improving conditions in recycling plants should be a priority. Despite its benefits, recycling alone isn't enough. The best way to reduce plastic waste is by using less plastic in the first place. But as long as plastic exists, recycling will remain an important part of protecting our planet. So next time you see a plastic bucket, remember, it might have had a very different past before reaching your hands. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more recycling videos like this one.